Hello and welcome everyone to the Box to Box podcast, of course, the official podcast for national football on the local TV network. So we're everywhere. Now we're a bit short tonight. We've got it's quality rather than quantity again tonight. I'm joined here by John, mate. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. The best guys are here, ain't they?
Yeah, well, that's all we need, isn't it? I mean, now the weather's warmed up a bit. We've got up about 3 or 4 degrees, haven't we, John? So I'm sure
absolutely.
I mean, I'm freezing here. I've got my blanket on my knee and everything just to try and keep warm. You know, I'm still cold and it's about 5 degrees warmer. Stuart, how are you, mate? We've got Stuart as well. How are you, pal?
I'm all right, mate. And it's lovely and warm in Manchester. It must be your old age.
It's just my house, mate. It's nothing to do with the weather. It's just we have the heat on for about an hour a day because we're very, very mean. Well, can't afford it. Basically, that's the problem.
You better get on to insulate Britain.
Yeah, I'd be warmer sat on the tarmac on a motorway. I can tell you half the time. That'd be great. Right, we've got an interesting one tonight, guys. A little interesting agenda. We're going to kick off mentioning a team who started the season quite well in the Premier League. They seem to be sort of a bit of a struggle at the moment, though. So obviously, I think they wanted to get back on the back pages with something. So we're going to have a little chat about Brentford, who've decided, interestingly enough, for one reason or other. I'll come to you. First of all, John, with this one. The current home shirt, they're going to get a couple of seasons out of it. I mean, what's your understanding? Do you think this is a good idea and the reasons they've done it, or is there some other perhaps dark reason we're not seeing behind it all? What do you think, mate?
Well, I'm thinking for Brentford, on a personal note, it's their first ever Premier League home kit. So they want to eke out as much of it as they can. On the flip side, you know, a lot of the other teams, they change kits every season. In fact, every team changes kits every season because of merchandising. I mean, you can see on my wall what West Brom do. You know, we change our designs all the time. And I think we had like a barcode version last season as well. So it's about merchandising with other teams. But fair play to Brentford. You know, it's their first ever home Premier League kit, and yeah, they just want to keep the memories going, so to speak, as I saw on their Twitter account.
Well, the thing is, John, as well, I mean, I'll stay with you just for a minute. I mean, obviously, obviously me and Stuart are City fans, and we have 3 kits a season, obviously, and special designs and commemorative ones and all this sort of thing about every year. But is it the same in the Championship with West Brom? Did you have actually a home away and a third kit, or is it just a home and away?
Yeah, we do have a yellow third kit, yellow and a bit of blue in there as well. So basically, our home kit is the usual blue and white stripes. Our away kit, normal away kit, is black on grey squares, and our third kit is yellow and blue. So yeah, it's to do with colour clashes in the Championship mostly.
Yeah. I mean, Stuart, I don't know about you. I mean, if I can afford it, I buy the kits. If I like them, I buy them. I've gone seasons where I've literally not bought any kits because I've either not been able to afford it or not particularly liked them. I mean, I did manage to get all 3 this year, even though obviously we didn't think much of our third kit. But I mean, I find it's more a trading top to me, but it's unusual. Let's put it that way. And they have to try these things, don't they? I think they've already reduced it by about 40% because they can't sell the flipping thing. So that's not a great sign. But I mean, what do you think, Stu? I mean, is it something other Premier League clubs might do, or is it just Brentford's special circumstances, if you like?
They're never going to do it, are they? I think they should do it. They always used to do it, didn't they? I remember when I was a kid, it used to be 1 year we changed the home shirt, 1 year we changed the away shirt. We never used to change all 3. And all of a sudden it just changed. And you went, oh no, you've got to buy 3 every season now. I mean, I don't get them anymore because they don't really fit my body type. But I get them, my lad, and they're well expensive. So if City just had the blue one this year and next year and changed the away one, yeah, that'd be better for me.
Yeah, I mean, just stay with you for a sec, Stu. I mean, they claim as well this is something to do with the carbon footprint, as the fact that obviously these tops don't sort of break down, if you like, when they're sort of obviously. But that's a bit silly for me. I don't think I've got a City shirt even from my kids that I've thrown away, to be honest with you. I mean, do people throw these? Stu, would you throw your replica kits away, even though it might be a bit battered? I mean, are you like me, a bit of a hermit, keep everything just for sentimental value, Stuart? What What do you do? I mean, is it going to affect the carbon footprint, this thing? What do you think?
Only in the manufacturing of it, I think, because like yourself, when I was a kid, at the end of the season, I'd get the new one and I'd stick the old one to my bedroom wall. And now they're in carrier bags upstairs in Sean's wardrobe somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's no... I'll come back to you, John, on this one for the last thing, really. I mean, at school, retro kits are very, very popular now. I'm sure there's not the same pressure on kids that perhaps there was a few years ago to have the most up-to-date kit, because I mean most fans now who wear the shirts, you see all different designs from years gone by. So I mean, I think it's something and nothing really, isn't it? In it, John, this because you say it's not as much pressure now to buy the 3 kits anyway, so people can just pick and choose. So clubs can decide whether they want to bring 3 out every season or they just want to bring one and reuse it for a couple of seasons. It's not going to make a lot of difference commercially or to kids and stuff like this who get affected. Obviously, you think of kids going to school and being picked on and stuff like that in the past, but I don't think it's a big problem now, John, do you?
No, not really. I mean, touching back on the retro kits and that, I've got a cupboard full of old West Brom kits, and they've basically been hand-me-downs from my dad, who is also a massive West Bromwich Albion fan in his own right. But yeah, the whole, it's not as much pressure, I mean, in an area like where I live, where we've got 4 major teams, you could get bullied for like wearing a Blues kit, so it is, we get bullied for wearing football kits on a completely different level, to be honest. You have the Villa fans having to go at the Birmingham fans and so on and so forth. I won't get into that too much, but yeah, it's not really a matter for Not really.
Yeah, I think John going back to you said, I think you summed it up perfectly there. I think that's, I mean, from a Brentford point of view, for the first shirt, as you said, in the Premier League for all this length of time, I think that's a wonderful idea. If they just come out and said that, which I've not seen, I read a couple of articles today. I certainly didn't see that aspect of it, but you should be the PR guy for Brentford, mate, because I think that's an absolutely wonderful way of putting it. And I think that would have sort of knocked all any criticism or any comments on the head, to be honest with you, without talking about carbon footprints and all this.
Absolutely, yeah. We stretched out an old green and yellow away kit for years, so yeah.
Are people criticising him? No.
Sorry?
Are people criticising them?
Not criticizing, just saying everyone should do it, and so I think they're trying to put pressure on other clubs, which I think is a bit ridiculous, to be honest with you. I don't.
And also, it's cost, isn't it? I mean, the shirts at West Brom, they're like £50 without all the personalisation. With that, it could be like up to 70, 80, £90. So it's all to do with cost. And, again, fair play to Brentford for saving a bit of money for their fans as well. Yeah.
Well, they'll just go out and buy another Brentford kit anyway, won't they? So that's people got the money; they buy the kits for me. I don't think it makes a big difference. Stuart, just the next little subject we're going to talk on. Now, to be honest with you, I will totally tell you the truth now. This subject is absolutely not a lot of interest to me. I'll be honest with you. The Ballon d'Or. I mean, it's up there with the Dustbin Men of the UK awards for me. I couldn't care less about the Ballon d'Or. I think it's nice for the players, of course, to have all these little trophies on the sideboard and stuff like that. But Stuart, I mean, I've got to ask the question. Obviously, do you think Messi deserved it? I think he won, didn't he? Yeah, I think that's And were you a bit disappointed, or are you interested in it? And do you think anyone sort of missed out who perhaps should have been there? There's some interesting rankings, I must admit, when I did have a glance through, just for the sake of this programme. I wouldn't have bothered otherwise. What do you think, Stuart?
It wasn't really interesting, like yourself, really. And then I was reading yesterday that is it not like just voted on by some French newspaper or something?
I mean, the journal, it was started in French football. It's a French football magazine, I think, guys, John, one of the French things, and obviously it's voted on by 100-odd journalists that spread around the place. But I mean, these sort of journalists, let's face it, I wouldn't probably read most of their rubbish anyway, so I've no real interest in knowing what they think a good footballer is. But sorry.
It's a beauty pageant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a beauty pageant. Messi probably is one of the greatest players ever in my lifetime. So should he win it every year? Probably. But he hasn't been the best player in the world this year, not by a long shot, because was he not out for a bit of it? And then he's been playing in France, struggled, not been scoring, not been banging, has he? I don't think, in France. So,
I mean, Lewandowski was second, and obviously Jorginho was third. So I mean, that sums it up, Stuart, doesn't it, mate? I mean, obviously that I don't have to go much further in it, do I? Surely with Lewandowski, I would say if I had to look at the names and say who probably deserves it, I would probably come up with him, and I think a lot of people did,
too,
obviously. But obviously they didn't give it him. So, but when people like Jorginho are in third spot, Stuart, it's a bit dodgy, isn't it? I mean, what's going on?
Like Jorginho's had a good season with his country and with his club, but he didn't do it all on his own. It's not like when Messi was at Barcelona and he was running the show and he was like mesmerizing every week. It's Jorginho, and he's just a decent player, but he's not the third best player in the world.
Well, John, just thinking, Messi did say that he probably won this because of the Copa America, and then there's been some criticism that it's not a special cup anyway, and all this sort of thing from people who have no connection with it whatsoever. So, what are your thoughts, John? Anyway, is Messi correct, and what do you think of the Ballon d'Or in general?
Well, to start with, I'm surprised Mo Salah ranks so low. I mean, like 7th.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I thought he'd be top 3, to be honest. And going back to Jorginho at Chelsea, let's face it, Chelsea won the Champions League. There's a lot of Chelsea players. I'm looking at the list right now. There's a lot of Chelsea players in there. And one of them as well, Romelu Lukaku, weren't even there when they won the Champions League. so yeah. And what's surprising me as well is the guy in 10th, Donnarumma of PSG, he played for Italy. And what happened? He won the Euros. So it's like he really should be in there, and obviously Jorginho is Italian as well, so he won the Euros as well. So I'm surprised. And in terms of Messi saying what he said, I mean, yeah, to be honest, I'm not. I'm taking that with a pinch of salt. To be honest, I'm really not interested in the Ballon d'Or. You know, it's all about Premier League, Championship, English football, European Cup. You know.
I totally agree with like clubs having their own player of the years and all this sort of thing. That's absolutely where the fans vote, and obviously as long as it's not a vote where other fans can hijack it and do stupid things, which can happen these days. And I'm all for that. I'm all for a club, a player being recognised. That just brings me on before we finish on it, Stuart. I mean, I think this sort of thing should be more as a reward for services to football for players, this Ballon d'Or. I don't, for football, and obviously I'm thinking people like Aguero, who obviously, these players who perhaps have done things and perhaps not won individual major awards. Well, like we used to have a Clubman of the Year award at our football team, Stuart. The guy who put up the net and took down the nets and was willing to go club and was willing to do. I mean, I prefer the Ballon d'Or to be something like that, where it's looking at a guy who's a player who's done a lot for football. Wouldn't you prefer to see something like that, Stuart, than this rubbish we get now?
But it would just be the same people voting on it, though, wouldn't it? So you'd still just get the same popularity contest.
Well, we'd get rid of the journals. I mean, they're absolute rubbish. They don't know anything, do they? But from I mean, we're all biased, aren't we? Let's be honest about it. Even journalists are biased towards somebody. So, but would you like to see the Ballon d'Or, but just slightly changed format? Any ideas of a changing format for it, Stuart, that might make it a bit more, agreeable or interesting?
I think they should just have a wider voting selection, probably, because if it's just 100 journalists and some French magazine, and it's always just the same people every year. And I think only Luka Modric is the only other one that's not won it, if he's not Ronaldo or Messi in the last 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And was the Kante not even in there? Because Kante is about 14 times better than Jorginho.
Kante, he was in there. He's 5th. Kante finished 5th, so.
Oh, that's not bad, was it? Yeah. All right. Before we finish, then, John, just anything you could think on the Ballon d'Or that make it a little bit more. People like me might be more interested in it, for instance, because I'm not for the slightest bit interested in it. I'm sort of interested in Player of the Years and stuff like that. I can sort of go along with that. BBC Sports Personality of the Year to some extent, I'm okay, but the Ballon d'Or's never interested me. Anything that could bring me back on side, mate? Can you think of anything?
Well, I completely agree with you on the point that it should be for like services to football, not just like the best football player at the moment. I'm taking an example here from another sport, the WWE. They have a Hall of Fame, and that's for like previous wrestlers. They do that every year just before their main event, so to speak. I'm not going to mention which one it is, but if you follow wrestling, you know which one it is. But yeah, it's and also with the sports personality of the year. I mean, I follow football, but I also follow Formula One. I'm always voting Lewis Hamilton on that. So
no bias,
so, yeah,
no bias there.
No bias. But I'm a Hamilton fan, and I hope he wins again this year. But yeah. But yeah, it's like what you said. It's a popularity contest at the moment. It should really be for services to football, to any player who's retired or who's in management.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it probably was a bit more interesting before the Ronaldo Messi loving, wasn't it? I think it probably had a bit more, people sort of believed it a little bit more. I think, but because of all this, just one or the other, and apart from, as we said, Modric coming into it and stuff like that, apart from them two, I think people lost interest because, it's just the same thing. I mean, you have a beauty contest, you have a Miss World every year and the same woman wins it. You get the same couple of women who get into the final. Even us blokes would get a bit bored with it, wouldn't we? So, I mean, what's the point? So it's a similar sort of thing anyway. But let's move on, guys. Let's talk about our second. I know it's yours, Stuart. I know it's yours, John. Second favourite team, obviously in England. We're going to talk about a certain team that's not far away from me. They've got an interesting appointment, an interesting interim, haven't they? You've got a guy called Ralph Rangnick. I won't joke about it. That's his name. I won't come up with another name I was going to come up with. Is the inventor of Gegenpress. There we go.
Is that like the Gangman style? You're just going to dance up. It's like instead of doing the hacker or something.
He's obviously that talented that he's obviously a major club in a major league. Well, not really, but he's obviously got some talent somewhere. I looked at his CV, if you like, and there's a little bit of success on there. And he has his thing. I mean, there used to be an old saying, didn't there? Those that can do and those that can't teach. And I get the impression he's one of these guys who's very good at doing all these little systems, etc., etc. When it comes to running a club or managing a club, he might struggle just a little bit. What are your thoughts, John, on this man that's come from Russia, this German, and what's he going to do for United?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know much about him before United appointed him, so I've done a quick Wikipedia search, and yeah, from what I've read, he's influenced like Tuchel and Klopp.
They're his sort of pupils. Yeah, he's not Pep though, so he can't be that good, can he?
No. but yeah, I mean the whole Gegenpressing. What my point would be is how will the Manchester United players, the current squad, adapt to that if he, puts that into the Manchester United tactics? Because you're looking at Pogba, you're looking at Fernandes, you're looking at Ronaldo. Yes, they're good players, but would they be capable of keeping up the pressing game? From what Wikipedia has told me, would they be able to have the stamina to actually keep up for 90 minutes? Some of them, like Fred, Maguire, I don't think they can. So that's where that's the saving grace for other teams. If they can expose the weaker players, then obviously Manchester United are going to concede even more goals. So.
I think that interests me, Stuart. I mean, obviously, when Pep came, he obviously, let's face it, let's be honest about it, he has changed the way the Premier League teams play. Even in the Championship, I'm sure in the lower division, you do get the teams trying to play out from the back. He has sort of changed football in general. But to be honest with you, they're bringing this guy in for 6 months. And then he's going upstairs as a director or technical director or director of football or whatever job they're giving him. I mean, what is the point of him trying to instill, as John said there, these guys who probably won't be able to do it? I mean, is it just more of United not forward planning? It's just more of United doing things, just to cover for a little short time. It just seems a bit odd to me, Stuart, because if this guy was coming in for 3 years and teaching getting a new system in, but there's another manager due in at the end of the season. So I don't understand, Stuart. Can you explain to me what exactly United are actually doing?
I haven't got a clue. But unless he goes upstairs and he has a hand in who's going to be the next manager, and it's somebody that he sort of knows.
A Gegenpress guy, yeah.
And then it's a system throughout the club, kind of what City you've got with, you have the Barcelona lot upstairs, don't we? And then Pep, and then at the youth team, it's kind of the same thing. So they can just slot in. But from that from that appointment, all I thought was, oh, United are just trying to be as good as Salzburg now. That's it. They just want to be as good as Salzburg.
It is really odd. I mean, John, what do you think about that? I mean, obviously, as I say, he is not going to be the permanent manager as far as, I mean, he may set the world alight, and obviously they may say to him, "Oh, please don't go upstairs. We want you in that. We want you in that dugout, game in, game out." But I don't think. I mean, he's 63. I think he's not a young bloke. I mean, obviously, I'm 63 next year. I consider myself pretty old, actually. Yeah, so he's not a young bloke, John, is he? But I mean, what's your thinking of it? I mean, obviously, what I don't understand it. I like the way United's owners seem to have all these brilliant ideas, and it sort of distracts the fans from certain things that aren't working. And for me, it's just another distraction, surely. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I've never been a fan of short-term managers. I mean, we had Sam Allardyce last season at our club, and look where that got us. So yeah, we know firsthand what short-term managers, when it goes wrong. So yeah, that's my concern for Manchester United. This is short-term, and then they're going to go off and look for another manager. It's like what you said. What is the point?
Unless they've got Tuchel and Klopp lined up, of course, who are obviously pupils or are inspired by him. I mean, obviously perhaps that's something we don't know, mate. Stuart, what do you think? Do you think that's an option of getting one of those guys in if they offer him the money? What do you think? Would Klopp go? Would Tuchel go? It certainly caused a few problems, wouldn't it, mate?
They struggled getting Brendan Rodgers from Leicester, so they're not going to leave Leicester for Liverpool and Chelsea, are they?
No, not sure. I mean, I've got a little thing. Sorry, John. Go on.
I'm not sure the Liverpool or Chelsea fans would be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a little note here on the question that's on the agenda, which said simply, I'll just come back to you quickly, John, before we move on. Will this spark a new way of how the game is played in the Premier League? I mean, how do we know? We haven't got a clue yet, have we, mate? Let's be honest. I mean, I suppose the 1-1 draw with Chelsea wasn't bad, but I'm sure that was not influenced by our new guy. I mean, obviously, that's just a question. I would say at this point in time, not a cat in hell's chance, John. But what do you think, mate?
Well, to be honest, Tuchel and Klopp are already here. Yeah. So the spark's already here if there is going to be a spark. So I don't think it's going to affect the game too much, to be honest, especially not in the Premier League.
No. I mean, Stuart, I was looking for years.
Yeah.
Well, Stuart, I was looking at it, and I was looking at this Gengen press, and it was like 8 seconds for this and 9 seconds. I thought, well, at the moment, it's about 3 seconds for this and 4 seconds for that. So, I mean, it's just a backward step from what I can see as far as the Premier League, because perhaps there's a new way of doing it slower. I'm not too sure, but anything to add, Stuart, before we move on? Anyway,
I saw that question myself, and I just thought, teams have been pressing for years, and everybody laughed at Pep when he said he was going to keep doing it, and then now all of a sudden this guy's going to come and revolutionise the Premier League because United have signed him.
It'll be an interesting. I can't wait actually I might even watch a couple of their games just to see.
Yeah,
and
they'll be on Sky, guaranteed.
Ronaldo will be up and down that pitch like nobody's business. He'll be like Bernardo. He'll be up and down, left to right, up and down, sideways, everywhere. He'll be absolutely knackered by the time he's 38. So he's in trouble. Right, guys, let's move on. Yes, this is an interesting one. I mean, it's keep cropping up these things, don't they? Bielsa's obviously been commenting about the winter break and the Premier League, and we get this year in, year out, guys, don't we? We're going to get a winter break next year. Unfortunately, most of the players will be coming back knackered from it because obviously it's something to do with the World Cup. But John, just come to you, mate. It does crop up. I mean, Bielsa's obviously got a point, mate, but Is there anything going to change? I mean, what is the point of even raising it? I mean, other managers have raised it over the years, but nothing ever changes. All they do is pile more games in, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change before the World Cup, to be honest. If there is going to be a winter break, then obviously it's going to be in like 22, 23. But more than likely 2023, to be honest. But no, I mean, looking from the Championship's point of view, our December's even more congested, because there's literally more teams. Not to mention, you've got the Champions League teams and the Europa League teams, and obviously those competitions are going to want to finish their group games because it's round about now that the group games finish. So they're gonna want to get that out the way. So yeah, I don't think it's going to change any time pre-World Cup, to be honest.
It's Stuart, yeah. I mean, Bielsa's obviously just going over old ground, isn't he? He's obviously Leeds are struggling a little bit, so perhaps he's coming up with some excuses. In the same way, I've just recently read Pep's saying we could be in trouble in December because we can't get a full squad. So if we can't, City can't get a full squad, there's not much help for anybody else, is there? Let's be honest about it. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Stuart? What do you think about this? I mean, is it just hot air again? I mean, it's just be nice to get a bit of hot air, wouldn't it? But what do you think, mate? It just comes up every season, doesn't it? This, with the different things. It's always the European managers who come in and comment about it. But nothing ever changes, mate, does it?
No, nothing changes. It shouldn't change. Leave my December football alone. Football every 3 days. I love it. Just give me something to do.
Well, I mean, you can argue the players are paid quite well to do it. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong there. But, I mean, just Stuart, I mean, commercially, I mean, what would they do? If they took a winter break, would you be surprised that clubs flying over the world to play a friendly somewhere in warm weather, just to use that as an excuse? But there's no doubt that had happened, in my opinion. What do you think, Stuart? Did they just play a game?
I wouldn't be surprised one bit that they just carry on playing abroad somewhere else, Saudi Arabia or America or somewhere like that. If they want less games, then they need to get onto UEFA and say, let's just make the Champions League for champions only, straight knockout, and let's go back to the way it used to be with less teams in Europe, and then there's less games, and then there's less travelling, and then we're all right.
Not a chance, have we, John, mate? Not a chance. What do you think, mate?
No, I think years ago they were even considering a 39th game?
Yeah,
abroad. Somewhere else. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's not going to change anytime soon. I mean, they've got all the TV rights to the Champions League and the Europa League and the Premier League. So, yeah, FIFA and UEFA just aren't going to give up on all that revenue, are they?
No. So Bielsa will have to suffer with the rest of us. There's not much we can do about that one. Right, another one that's been interesting on this. I mean, it annoys me, and it's not just the element. We're going to talk about diving, whether it's getting worse, and play acting in general. I think. I mean, one of my bugbears, and I'm going to add this to the thing as well, is time wasting. Which obviously there was a thing done, wasn't there, a couple of weeks about how many minutes are actually played in a game, and I think Aston Villa came out of the worst of wasting time overall, which didn't surprise me, to be honest with you. And they were the worst, but. So just talk about the diving and play acting. I mean, do we need to? Go back to you, Stuart. First of all, do we need tougher punishments? I think I know what I feel about this situation. What would you say? What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's gone on for years, hasn't it, diving? I mean, I remember when Klinsmann first came over and was throwing himself all over the place when I was a kid. But it has got worse now. They're just getting like brushed. And he's a big, strong, athletic guy. Like I watched City PSG the other day. Neymar was all over someone on the touchline, proper bullying him, and then he ran past him and fell down, holding his face like he'd just been shot or something. So either be strong or don't, but don't roll around on the floor pretending that you've been poleaxed when there's nothing happened to you. And the referees, they should be stronger on it. They've got VAR now. They can see if somebody has purposely left their leg out to fake contacts and go down, or whether someone's actually come in and put the boot in. That's the only reason they should get punished for putting the boot in. If they're not going to foul them, if it's not a foul, is it? Like a lot of them, what you see now, penalties where the player runs across and the legs get tangled. It's not a foul, is it? But they always get a penalty for it.
Yeah, I mean, John, the interesting thing is it doesn't have to be, most of it doesn't have to be retrospective now either, does it? As I said, we've got VAR, right, obviously in the Championship, it'd be a different ball game. Certainly in the Premier League, we've got VAR now. Those decisions surely can be made there and then. A player can be booked for feigning it, and they just seem to ignore it. There's no sort of look back at stuff like that. I mean, I don't think the VAR guys are that overworked in 90 minutes. They can't just look back at an incident. What do you think, John? Do you think we've got it there now to actually take action? We can still take retrospective action, of course we can, but we've got everything certainly at the Premier League level to take action now, haven't we? Surely.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I think is holding the VAR back is like how the rules have stated that it's implemented. I don't think it actually covers, like deliberate contact in the box. It's only covering whether a foul has been committed or not. But it's all like a goal scoring opportunity or anything like that. So I don't think the rules need to be clear for VAR to include deliberate diving. I mean, I've never been a fan of diving. We don't have VAR in the Championship. And I know full well, because Fulham against Albion and Mitrovic, as good a player he is, got past one of our defenders. No contact was made. He went over, penalty to Fulham. I mean, I'm not bitter about it, I promise. but yeah, it's. I've always hated diving, even when footballers on my own club, when they dive, I don't like it. But it's to do with the rules. They need to be more clear concerning diving.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, going back to you, Stuart, I mean, the thing is with this is that obviously with the Championship, you could do it retrospectively. But do they actually do it now? I don't really hear of much. Do you hear of much being done where, they look at these? I know we get red cards rescinded and stuff like this, but have we ever had a yellow turn into a red or anything like this from a committee somewhere? I'm not too sure it works the other way. All they do is take away bad things. They don't actually punish. They're not punishing. They just oh yeah, we were wrong, we'll give it you back. I mean, am I wrong, Stuart? I'm not looking at the same TV programs or reading the same articles because I never heard about anything.
I think they can only take action if the referee doesn't take any action. So if the referee books him, they then can't look at it and send him off because the referee's already dealt with it. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
But it is, like you say, it is daft. They've got them screens at the side of the pitch now, and the amount of penalties, let's say Salah, for example, he gets that are massively soft, and you'd think that shouldn't be a penalty. And they don't even check him. They just say, oh, it's definitely a penalty because Salah's gone down in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, quickly with you, John, before we move on to this. I mean, obviously, feigning injury and time wasting. For me, I mean, time wasting can be tackled dead easy. I mean, we saw it again at the game me and Stuart were at weekend. I mean, the keepers, they're wasting time on goalkeepers. It's almost like in the Championship, but it's absolutely terrible. They mess around, they do different things, and the referees just. I mean, there was one incident a couple of months ago now where literally the opposing keeper at the Etihad was wasting time and time and time, and then with about 5 minutes to go, when we wanted to waste a bit of time, and Edison held on to it for him, he got booked, and the other guy hadn't been booked. He's been doing it all game. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, keepers if they get booked and told by the referee the next time, mate, I think you're wasting time, you get a red card. It'd stop it, wouldn't it? I mean, all this time, we wouldn't need a guy saying, "Oh, let's do 2 30-minute halves and stop the clock every time." We just need the referees to get off the bums and do something about it on the pitch, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly the same in the Championship, to be honest. There's been plenty of times when I've been at Albion games at the Hawthorns, and you've got like 20,000 Albion fans going mad because an opposing goalkeeper has caught the ball, he's fine, and then all of a sudden goes down and holding his knee, and it's like, what? It's like, why? And it really gets on your nerves, especially if you're the team chasing the game. Like if you're only 1-0 down, 5 minutes to go, and you are attacking, and then the keeper manages to get the ball and then just sits down. It is really annoying.
I think that's where the keeper catches it and then deliberately, as you said, falls on the floor. I mean, I've seen City keepers doing it, but I've seen obviously opposing keepers doing it many times. It's just so frustrating from a fan's point of view, and it just because that wouldn't. If they said to someone, "We're going to have outside timekeeping, Stuart," if we said to him it's going to be 2 30-minute, that wouldn't affect anything like that. You would still get, even within that 60 minutes. How many minutes more would we still lose because it's only the ball's out of play and stuff like that? So it just wouldn't work. We just need a bit of a stronger influence on the pitch, and I think we need more retrospective action and more punishments for these things. Players, etc., deliberately doing these things.
I mean, yeah, I am a big fan of the stadium clock idea, though. 2 40-minute halves and stop the clock when it goes out of play.
Well, they're talking 30-minute hours. We'll have no game left, will we?
Yeah, I don't know though, because when you look at like ice hockey, American football, they take forever, don't they? And they only do like 15-minute quarters, so might be all right. We might get way more football.
You never know. Right, and I think we've broached this subject in previous weeks. I certainly have with John, I think. I remember doing this. And obviously one of the questions we're going to ask tonight is the Championship a good enough standard to provide teams for the Premier League? My little thoughts on this. I mean, obviously it's named Fulham and West Brom here, John, so obviously you're involved in this. Yeah. See, my little thoughts on this. I mean, I go back. I'm an old guy, and I'm not have to be that old actually. When City were in the third tier for the only one season in the whole entire history of Manchester City. I don't think we were there all the time, the way people go on, but City for me have always been a big club, always been a first division club. We might have dropped out of it many times, and there's certain clubs. I would say there's about 10 in the Premier League that you don't ever think will probably drop out at any stage. And if they did, they get back in fairly quickly. I mean, you know, I'm not particularly talking just the teams that won loads of trophies. I'm talking like teams like Newcastle. They have won a load of trophies, but a long time ago. But you just envisage if they drop out, they'll get back. Leeds United, I never understood how it took them so long to get back, because I just imagined they would come back up. But John, from your point of view, I think it's never altered. This you can go back 100 years, and we still have the same sort of problems of teams going up and down all the time, and then obviously some teams dominating and dropping out. But I mean, what are your thoughts, John? I mean, it is obviously with the parachute payments, we've talked about that. Obviously, it helps teams from the Premier League, etc. But surely there's still an option there. As I said, there's probably 8 or 10 teams, I think, that no matter what happens, would never ever now drop out of the Premier League, whatever happens, because of money, etc., etc., etc. But there's plenty of scope for the other 10, isn't there, mate? I mean, John, to establish themselves and get up there. And I say we've had a bit of a laugh at Norwich in the past for not spending their money that wisely, and they're quite happy to go up and down, and the owners seem happy. But I'll come to you, John, with that. I mean, what do you think, mate? Being a championship, obviously a fan of a championship team.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing we're one of those 10, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, no one thought Villa would ever get relegated, and then they had a really terrible season. What happened? Aston Villa got relegated, and they didn't bounce back straight away. It took them a good couple of seasons to get back up. I mean, from a championship point of view, you've had your Huddersfields go up and come back down. You've had Bournemouth go up and come back down. They've got a good chance this season to get back up there. And on the flip side, you've got a team like Brighton and Hove Albion, who you never thought would be an established Premier League team, yet they've been there a good couple of seasons now.
They get booed though. They finish if these Blues a game and they're in 8th position though. So I mean, obviously,
and yeah, it's really down to like investment as well. You know, I mean, we got promoted 2 seasons ago by the skin of our teeth, but there was no investment. Hence why we're now back down in the Championship. So it's all down to individual clubs' investment in the team, and absolutely, it's a case of it's a case of investment. I'm afraid, if you've got the money, you can survive in the Premier League, no problem. You can buy players and get decent wages and decent income coming in. But if you're like us, expecting a championship team with a few loans to survive in the Premier League, then we're proof positive you're not going to survive.
So I mean, it's desire as well, isn't it, John? It's the desire of the owners and desire of the club, and then to grow it and stay in there. I mean, obviously, when Leeds had such a good season last season, you thought, all right, they might be back for a while now. They talk about expanding the ground, building a bigger ground, all this sort of thing you need to do, obviously, to get more income and get more commercial. And you think, but all of a sudden they're struggling a little bit because they haven't had a chance to sort of invest it and start building the ground and getting more bums on seats and stuff like that. So. Just coming to you, Stuart. I mean, obviously, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, we're lucky in a way. I mean, obviously, I'm sure we'll obviously, as City fans now, we doubt very much. But obviously, even Liverpool, when they had 30 years of winning nothing, they never suffered relegation as such. They just didn't win things. I mean, there's certainly, and some teams will always do that and be capable of doing that. But I think looking at going back, I do a lot of history vlogs myself, and looking back, and it's more or less always been the same. And it's Stuart, with what we've got now, there's not a lot of difference. The first division, when it was the old first and second division was always hard to get out of. It was always hard to stay in the first division once you got in the first division, unless you had investment and you had a bit of luck as well. You always need a little bit of luck, like you do. But what are your thoughts, Stuart?
Yeah, I'm the same. There's always been yo-yo clubs. There's always been clubs that go up and down, up and down. like City were one when I was a kid. We'd go up one season and then we'd last a couple of seasons and we'd back down again, and then we'd probably just kick it and just go right down and then come back. But the only difference is now is it's not the quality in the Championship isn't good enough for it's the financial side of it. The difference between the haves of the Premier League and the have-nots of the Championship, it's so much bigger now than it used to be when it was Division 1 and Division 2, or even in the early stages of the Premier League. The financial gap is so big now, that is difficult for the teams. That I think the whole redistribution of the TV money should be just done massively different, and it should all just filter down through the league properly.
Yeah, I'll come to you, John, on that, because I think we talked about a few weeks ago as well about obviously the Championship and the divisions wanting a certain percentage. I mean, has there been any movement on that? I've not heard anything since then. Are you aware of anything on what's going on in the future with TV rights and stuff like that? No,
I haven't heard anything. No.
It's gone very quiet because I think they wanted something like 25% or something like that guaranteed, and obviously, obviously the Premier League clubs, you're not having any of our money, mate. But because
that would make them less competitive. Then, that's the thing. The gap is wide because the top teams in the Premier League are so competitive that some of the lower Premier League teams and upper Championship teams just cannot compete. And it's out of that group, lower Premier League, top Championship, that keep yo-yoing. I mean, like you said, Fulham, West Brom, Bournemouth, they're all in that group that just keep going up and down. From the Premier League at the moment, Norwich, Newcastle. So yeah, it's about it's about Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool. They're all competitive. So teams like quote unquote little old West Brom just can't compete with that kind of money, to be honest.
Yeah, well, wasn't there a team that went to the Championship, John, that was sort of got out of the Championship? Then they were going to be in trouble if they ever got back in because obviously of what they spent or something. What club was that? Was that a couple of years ago where they were to do, the sort of Championship FFP sort of thing, their system of it? Which club was that? Which club fell foul of that? And then obviously, which one was it? Can you remember at all? Can you remember, Stuart? I know there was a club, wasn't there, who sort of got out of the Championship, and then there was said, they're going to be in trouble now if they go back because they're going to get such and such done to them. But it wasn't Derby, was it? It wasn't Derby County.
No, I don't think it was Derby. I think it was it wasn't Sunderland, was it, or Portsmouth?
Well, they sort of really overspent, and then obviously they got out of it because they left the league, they left the division, so it didn't matter. But obviously they were waiting for them to come back so they could punish them in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, again, that's just touch on another example. You've got teams like Sunderland, Bolton, Portsmouth, who had been in the Premier League for years and years and years, won relegation, and where are they now? They're down in League One. So. They've fallen even further than obviously West Brom and Fulham. So
I was looking, Stuart, at some of the most the successful teams in English football. Over you take out all these silly Super Cups and stuff like that. And teams like Sunderland were there, and I mean that's obviously another club that has got potential, fantastic potential. Like Newcastle could get investment at some stage and get back up there if you like, because they do have the fan base, etc., that we talk about. But I mean, obviously these Sunderland. Would you think teams like that would ever sort of not become yo-yo clubs, but actually establish them? Is any other team not in the Premiership now that could, do you think, Stuart, that could establish themselves as a Premier League team without obviously someone coming in and spending 200 billion or whatever on them? I mean, is there anyone there now you could think, apart from, I can think of Sunderland, obviously, Stuart, but is there anyone else you think?
Oh no, it depends what you say is established, though, doesn't it? Because
just they never. I mean, I can't envisage in my lifetime now that it's not a cockiness at all. I can't envisage City ever going back down to the Championship now. Ever.
No, I can't.
One things, if John agrees with me there, you can't. It may happen. Don't get me wrong. We did say before about these teams we thought would be okay, but I think because just looking at this, certainly not my lifetime. I might only have about 15 years left or something like that. But certainly in my lifetime. But so it's when I say established, it wouldn't be a yo-yo club. That would just be accepted as part of the Premier League. I mean, is there any wild cards out there, Stuart?
Fulham.
Do you think?
Fulham, the London club, aren't they? Could get investment.
West Brom. What about West Brom? Are they going to establish themselves one day? There's
If
hope,
Barona
isn't there?
finally
It's a good
decides-
fan
Yeah.
base. I mean, it's a good fan base. It's a hotbed of football, the Midlands, isn't it? I mean, that's what you're after, isn't it? Let's be honest about it.
We've lost our way a bit because Chinese ownership that just will not invest into the club. So obviously we need. I think there's protests going on before the Reading home game, but like to try and get the owners out of the club because they're the ones that just have an event. Like I said in a previous topic, Championship club trying to fight in the Premier League just isn't going to happen, and that's simply because no investment. So from our point of view, I mean, someone in the comments has just said Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, Chef Wednesday.
Yeah,
I love
another one.
Sheffield.
Another one.
that's,
They were up there with Sunderland with trophies won. You know, they were another one that was quite in the top, say, 12 or 15 of clubs that have actually won trophies over the years and things like that. Definitely Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, Sheffield United were never, to me as a kid growing up, Sheffield Wednesday were the team anyway, and Sheffield United sort of came in it later on. So, it's odd, isn't it? Those
Maybe
clubs
not
pretty
as
established.
well. You know,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Well, Nottingham Forest, yeah, they were up there. Nottingham Forest. I mean, you're talking European champions a couple of times.
They won, the version of the Champions League at the time. So yeah.
Yeah.
It is an interesting point, guys. I mean, obviously, we will get this yo-yo thing, but you never know. We might get some team that'll surprise us, and we might find City getting relegated next season. Now I've said all that, but hey, there you go. That's life. Right, it's nearly Christmas, guys. Well, not quite, but we've got
3 weeks, isn't it?
Before we finish, so we got a couple of Christmas questions. Get me teeth in. Right, I'll start with you, John. Obviously, we are looking at the Premier League, mate, but you probably got an opinion. Obviously, looking at the bottom six, let me have a quick look what we've got here. Newcastle obviously are struggling. Leeds and Norwich are my three. I think I've got a few wild cards for the teams that may go down. I'm thinking Newcastle might get out of it. But what are your thoughts, John, on who's going to go down? We're only a third of the way through the season, but it's Christmas, so let's have a view of what you think.
Yeah, I think Norwich is a dead cert, to be honest. I mean, they've had a couple.
Tell you what, I did make a note. I'm looking at the wrong sheet of paper, John. I'll just say at the moment it's Newcastle with 6 points, Norwich 9, Burnley 9, Leeds 12, Watford 13, Southampton 14. Everton are dropping like a stone. The fans aren't very happy. Everton, I've noticed that on social media. Everton 15, Villa 16, Brentford 16, and Palace 16. So that's like you from your top to mid-table. So those teams. Sorry, John, go on.
No, that's fine. I would say Norwich, to be honest. Yes, they've brought in Dean Smith. He's had like a couple of wins, no worries. But I don't see enough in the Norwich team to actually survive the Premier League. Again, investment. I would say Burnley's time is finally done. They've had a couple of survivals, a la Sunderland from years ago. But I think now is finally the time for Burnley. And I just reckon Leeds as well. I mean, it's second season syndrome all over again for Leeds, I'm afraid. I don't think it'll take them another 16 years to get back in the Premier League. But yeah, those are my three: Norwich, Burnley, and Leeds to go down.
So you think Newcastle will be all right?
I think Newcastle will be all right. Yeah.
Despite the fact that they've got 3 points less than Derby did have in their worst season ever in the Premier League, obviously a few years back. So
but
Newcastle,
they've got Eddie Howe, who's experienced in this kind of situation.
So I'm just checking. I'm just checking. He's playing Norwich as we're recording this. I'm just checking. Obviously, there's not much happening there at the moment, but they're not winning yet, and I think it's 0-0. My eyes are going. I can't see that far now.
Still 0-0,
Yeah. Any sort of? I mentioned Everton there, John. What do you think? I mean, obviously, as I said, the season seems to be falling apart a little bit after a good start. I know I say we're only a third of the way through, but is there any sort of guys a bit further up like Southampton and Everton who you think may got dragged back into it? Or dragged into it. I mean, Everton used to have a phase of just escaping for a few years, I remember, but they've been okay since.
Well, Brentford have had a decent few games anyway, but I think now they're like playing big teams, so Brentford may get dragged into it. Villa always seem to get dragged into relegation battles lately. But yeah, Everton, it's just not working for Everton at the moment. I don't think they will get relegated. but they'll definitely get dragged into a relegation fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a penalty for Newcastle now, as I've just said that. So VAR are given one, so it can't be too bad. Stuart, what about you, mate? What do you think? Do you think any wild cards? Are you certain that anyone's doomed already?
Newcastle, Norwich, Burnley. I think will go down.
So the bottom, that's the
that's the bottom.
Yeah, that's the bottom three at the moment, isn't it? You can't see people like Leeds or Southampton getting dragged into it or anything like that.
Well, Newcastle look hopeless, don't they? They just when you say I love going to Newcastle. Newcastle's one of my favourite away trips. I'll be sorry if they get relegated because there's always like about 30 of us go on the train and we have a good laugh and a good day out. But I predicted at the start of the season Burnley, Norwich, Watford, and I just think Newcastle instead of Watford now.
Yeah. Right, guys, on the final thing for tonight, we're going to have a look at for Christmas. The final thing, we're going to have a look again, John, something I'll ask you about, and you can only hope, can't you, to be in this at some stage. It'd be nice in the future, mate. Obviously, the Champions League, I was having a quick look at the groups, obviously, as they stand now with the game left. And obviously, we're going to talk about who will win the Champions League. I did say a few weeks ago I thought maybe an English club. I don't see anything particularly to threaten that. I think Ajax are a wild card, but I can't see anything there. Inter seem to be doing okay. I've not watched them, but they seem to be doing okay. And obviously Bayern Munich is the main danger for me, apart from the three English clubs, and I won't include United in that. I mean, if the United win this Champions League, I don't know. I mean,
let's all pack up and go.
Perhaps the old Gengen press will work for the Champions League, and they'll finish mid-table and win the Champions League. That'll be great, won't it? That'll really just about sum it up. But I'll come to you, Stuart, first, mate. Champions League. Do you see anything outside of the three big English clubs? I mean, personally, those three English clubs, I will say it now, at this point in time, as the teams are, I wouldn't dismiss Liverpool's chances of winning it. I mean, I think City have a chance, but again, I still have slight worries going forward.
Calm down.
So what do you think, Stuart?
Liverpool done well, haven't they? Liverpool did well in the group. I think they won all 5 games so far. I think Chelsea have got 12 points. City did all right. Bit of a shaky start, but we did all right. But I'm going to raise my flag and say City's going to win it. Throwing it out there.
Any wild card, mate? Anyone outside the English clubs? As I say, because I think the three English clubs probably, obviously PSG. Obviously, they were the favourites. PSG were the favourites before the season, before we kicked off in the Champions League, and they were favourites. City were second favourites to PSG, but obviously they're sort of dropping slightly down now. But no one like that. PSG, Bayern Munich. Do you not? I mean, Barcelona. I mean, obviously we could throw them in, but I mean,
it's different this year, isn't it? Because I don't think anybody thinks Real Madrid or Barcelona. And PSG look a decent side. The 2 games I've seen us play against them, they look all right. We outplayed them both times, but they beat us once. And if it was a knockout game, we'd have gone out because over the 2 legs, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, they're capable. PSG are certainly capable of winning odd games, and that could be enough to win a Champions League in the end, as long as they get a nice last 16, last 18. They get a nice break. They'll be fine. But so you're going with City, Stuart? No. Yeah. If it wasn't City, who do you think?
Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich. Yeah, I mean, I think they're grinding it out, aren't they, Bayern? I think they're still grinding the results out and pretty consistent at this level. John, what do you think, mate?
Well, I think if I said anything other than Chelsea, my sister would kill me because she supports Chelsea. I mean, that win against Juventus was an absolute statement for Chelsea's intentions on actually defending the Champions League. Sorry, guys, for reminding you about that.
Fine.
But I believe Chelsea could defend
back
the title.
Back to back for Chelsea.
Yeah, back to back for Chelsea. That's what I believe. A little bit of pressure from my own sister.
Tuchel will be gone in January. He'll be assistant to Mr. Ralph Rangnick or whatever.
Ralph.
I will say one thing. I'm absolutely surprised at Borussia Dortmund. First 2 group games they won. And now they're in 3rd because they haven't won again in the group. So Borussia Dortmund lying in 3rd is an absolute shock for me, to be honest. I mean, they've got like Jude Bellingham in there, haven't they?
Yep.
So, I mean,
Well, Haaland's playing again, isn't he? He's fit again now.
Yeah, Haaland as well. So Dortmund is a surprise that for all the wrong reasons. In terms of wild card, I would say in the same group as Dortmund, I would say Ajax. They've got maximum points. So Ajax is a bit of a dark horse here, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, my wild card would be Ajax as well. To be honest with you, just to throw a spanner in. You know, I think they've got they're always capable of bringing these teams through, aren't these young. You seem to have these managers that just play a certain style, and I think that style can certainly win the Champions League. I mean, so Stuart's going for City. Well done, Stuart. His wild card was what I said. What against Bayern Munich? Yeah, I'll go for Liverpool. Wild card Ajax, and John, you said obviously Chelsea with your wild card Ajax as well.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to this. Obviously, a lot total idiots. Well, me and you will do, John. Obviously, Stuart won't look an idiot. He'll be spot on with his predictions, so he'll be fine on that. Anyway. It's been great, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it out there. Anyway, what we've talked about tonight.
Before we go,
mate,
there's a guy in the comments called Sean Evans. Can I just tell him? Can he just direct message you because he wants to get involved?
Yeah. Well, because if you're still listening, Sean, we don't sort of do that direct on air sort of thing. We don't sort of answer. It's not supposed to be a live thing as such. It's just the organ we do this through. But obviously, if you use one of those handles there at Charles Deneen. Yeah, Sean. Yeah, so just tweet me and I can stick you into the group app if you want, and you can come and you can have a word with the guys who run it and get you on for future reference if that's all right, mate. So if you're listening, which you are, you said I'm listening. So just stick my at Charles Deneen or any of the other guys on, and we'll point you in the right direction, mate. Okay. Anyway, there's one viewer, guys. That's one tonight. That's four of us. That's four in a way. Anyway, it's been great, guys. Thanks very much. Hope everyone enjoyed it out there, and you'll all tune back in next week for the Box to Box podcast, the official podcast for national football in the local TV network. I'm Bernard. I've enjoyed this, and it's bye from John, and it's bye from Stuart, and hopefully we'll see you all again very, very soon.